Okay, this is an article from Watchman's Cry by Nathan Leal, and this sums a lot of the information that I had in parts 1 through 5 of my Taylor expose. And I wanted to go over this article. This has a lot of important information. It says, Mark Taylor, The Trump Prophecy is a Delusion. The Trump Chronicles Part 2 by Nathan Leal. So note, this study is for those who have ears to hear. If that is you, then please read on. Then the prophet Jeremiah said unto Hananiah the prophet, Hear now, Hananiah, the Lord has not sent you, but you make this people trust in a lie. This is Jeremiah 29:15. Jesus warned us that deception would take place in the end times. He warned us about this over and over. As a matter of fact, that was his first warning when his disciples asked him about the end times. He even said if it were possible, the very elect would be deceived. This means end-time deception will be so convincing that even the most well-grounded Christians will struggle to get past it. In parts 1 through 5, I ended up having to shut the comments down because I had so many trolls coming in there that would just come in and sling insults. They wouldn't even look at the evidence. They've turned Mark Taylor into an idol, and they're going to follow him right into hell. And I mean that, folks. Don't trust that man. He's not to be trusted. In those 5 parts I did, the information is overwhelming. It's proof that he is a false prophet. And anybody that will not accept that is outside the will of God. That's just the way that it is. You know, I'm sorry I have to be so direct about that, and I know it's going to make you mad and hurt your feelings, but would you rather have hurt feelings and be made mad, or would you rather just go ahead and burn in hell? Because that's the direction you're going if you don't get away from him. Okay? Deception is powerful. Most people do not know when it's before them. Why? Because the nature of deception keeps it cloaked, invisible, unknown until it's too late. People that are deceived don't know they're deceived. And to a certain extent, we're all deceived. So it's not something you should let your pride or your vanity get in the way of. You should be willing to accept the truth, or at least look at the evidence, which many did not. A crafty spiritual deception took place during the Trump campaign. It had to do with several false prophecies that were made about Donald Trump regarding him and his presidency. Mark Taylor Fireman Prophecy. The Mark Taylor came out of nowhere during this election and quickly reached notoriety because of the prophecy that he shared on the True News program. According to his testimony, he received a prophecy in the year 2011. By now, many of you are familiar with it. The prophecy quickly found traction. It was then featured on the Jim Bakker television program as well as many other places because of the positive content of the prophecy. It was met with high acclaim by a portion of the evangelical community. Those who voiced their disagreement often found themselves under militant attack by those who defended it at all costs. I'm one of those that was attacked. And believe me, folks, I've done my homework. I know what I'm talking about here. In all my years as a Christian, I have never seen a prophetic word treated with such consecration like this one was. Many people voted for Trump because of this prophecy, and now he has won the election. Disturbing. Why am I talking about it now? Because the way that this prophecy was vetted exposes that American evangelicals have forgotten the words in their Bible, and that is very true. The prophecy bypasses key principles that are necessary for prophecy to be valid. The prophecy was also littered with historical inaccuracies and fallacies. That's right, folks. The prophecy had lies within it. But in spite of all of its errors, Christians gravitated to it and held on to it like a sacred cow. Even more disturbing was how Christian leadership promoted it, and even though it was fraught with false content. The prophecy below. This is the original prophecy. The Spirit of God says, I have chosen this man, Donald Trump, for such a time as this. For as Benjamin Netanyahu is to Israel, so shall this man be to the United States of America. For I will use this man to bring honor, respect, restoration to America. America will be respected once again as the most powerful and prosperous nation on earth, other than Israel. The dollar will be the strongest it has ever been in history of the United States. It will once again be the currency by which all others are judged. Okay, let's stop right there. Now, I don't know what Nathan is going to say about this below, but I just wanted to make a point. Other than Israel, it says here, Israel has never been the most powerful country. It may have been the richest during Solomon's reign, but it has never been the most powerful. And as a matter of fact, that was the very reason that Solomon married so many women, so he would have ties to other nations to keep himself from being threatened with war. So that right there, that's an inaccuracy, just off the record right there. The Spirit of God says, the enemy will quake and shake and fear this man I have anointed. They will even quake and shake when he announces he is running for president. It will be like a shot heard across the world. The enemy will say, what shall we do? This man knows all our tricks and schemes. We have been robbing America for decades. What shall we do to stop this? The Spirit says, no one shall stop this that I have started. For the enemy has stolen from America for decades, and it stops now. For I will use this man to reap the harvest that the United States has sown for the plunder from the enemy, what he has stolen, and return it sevenfold back to the United States. The enemy will say, Israel, Israel, what about Israel? For Israel will be protected by America once again, the Spirit says. America will once again stand hand in hand with Israel, and the two shall be as one. For the ties between Israel and America will be stronger than ever, and Israel will flourish like never before. The Spirit of God says, I will protect America and Israel, for the next president will be a man of his word. When he speaks to the world, I will listen and know that there is something greater in him than all the others before him. This man's word is his bond, and the world and America will know this, and the enemy will fear this. For this man will be fearless. The Spirit says, when the financial harvest begins, so shall it parallel in the spiritual for America. The Spirit of God says, in this next election, they will spend billions to keep this president in. It will be like flushing their money down the toilet. Let him waste their money, for it comes from and it is being used by evil forces at work, but they will not succeed. For this next election will be a clean sweep for the man I have chosen. They will say things about this man, the enemy, but will not affect him, and they shall say it rolls off him like a duck. As for the feathers of a duck protect it, so shall the feathers protect this president. Even mainstream news media will be captivated by this man and the abilities that I have gifted him, and they will even begin to agree with him, says the Spirit of God. And that's Mark Taylor's presidential prophecy there. there's just all kinds of red flags in that. For one, they didn't spend billions to keep this president in. He was referring to Obama right there. Okay, because this prophecy was a failed prophecy that was supposed to happen in 2012, and then he moved it up to 2016. Therefore, they didn't spend billions to keep Obama in. That's a lie right there. Okay, well, let's go on with what Nathan has to say. If a prophecy has error in its contents, can it be from God? The answer is no. But this prophecy included several statements that were outright false from the very, very beginning, which I am about to reveal. Does the Spirit of God do this? Of course not. But it did not seem to matter to those who promoted it. The Trump truth. By now, the world knows that Donald J. Trump has a problem telling the truth. In layman's term, he is an habitual liar. There's no way to sugarcoat this, folks. Trump is a master at flip-flopping his words. The prophecy above states in the 4th paragraph, the Spirit of God says, I will protect America and Israel, for this next president will be a man of his word. But is this true? Is Donald Trump a man of his word? Does principled integrity and truth flow from his lips whenever he speaks? Quite the opposite. No man knows when he's telling the truth. In the old days, that was called lying. The prophecy went on to state in the 4th paragraph, the man's word is his bond, and the world and America will know this. But is Donald Trump's word his bond? During his Trump rallies, he made the campaign pledge to lock Hillary Clinton up when he became president, but after his election victory, he stated that he would not pursue any further charges against Hillary. And there's a video linked to that. I'm going to link this whole page, by the way. It'll be at the end of the video, and it'll also be in the description. It was a major flip-flop, and as Christians with discernment, there is no way to spin this. Other lies told by Trump. Does one need to search far and wide to find Trump acting like Pinocchio? Nope. Trump has also campaigned with the promise to drain the swamp. And as you may know by now, the swamp didn't get drained. Nor is it really getting drained. It was replenished with globalist night creatures, vampires, and the very ones who are responsible for world carnage. Goldman Sachs has infiltrated the White House. Henry Kissinger is now making regular visits counseling Trump. The Rothschilds have a representative in the Trump administration. The Council of Foreign Relations is on the team. Globalists who were secretly turning the earth into a plantation have been recruited by Trump. The neocons that wanted to steer Hillary into war have been recruited by Trump. Peter Thiel, the PayPal billionaire and open homosexual, is a vampire. He injects human blood into himself, seeking life extension. One of his goals is living forever and cheating death. This is a common belief in the elites. Peter talks openly about that. Mark Taylor stated, the enemy has stolen from America. Is this true? The prophecy states in the 2nd paragraph in the 9th sentence, the enemy has stolen from America for decades and it stops now. For I will use this man to reap the harvest until the United States is sown for the plunder from the enemy that he has stolen and return it sevenfold back to the United States. Is this statement accurate, folks? Have globalists, plantation owners plundered America for decades? The truth is quite the opposite. Through the IMF and the World Bank, the elite of America have plundered 188 countries of the world on 5 continents since the onset of the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944. In actual fact, the IMF has, from the very beginning, been an institution locked by and controlled by and tailored to the interests of the United States, designed to secure new military, superpower economic world domination, global research, pillaging the world, the history of politics of the IMF. And just on a side note here, that's very true. That's why they took Libya out, because he wanted to get off the American petrodollar. Same with Iraq. And now they're on Korea for the same reason, because Korea is not involved with the World Bank. This is all a ruse, folks. A big psyop. You need to understand that. Okay, let's continue here. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States is not a victim of thievery. In truth, the United States has used agents that represent globalist bankers to rape the rest of the world of their natural resources and tax revenue through loans that are impossible to pay back. To accomplish this task, the elite have installed puppet leaders in third world countries to cooperate with them. When the citizens didn't like it, the installed leaders acted as dictators and murdered millions of their own citizens. And that's a fact. In 1982, John Perkins wrote the book Confessions of an Economic Hitman. He wrote it because his conscience would no longer allow him to continue in the dark world of international banking and pillaging of third world countries. Know your history, folks. This man's telling the truth. Economic hitman, EHMs, are highly paid professionals who cheat countries around the globe out of trillions of dollars. They funnel money from the World Bank, the U.S. Agency for International Development, and other foreign aid organizations into the coffers of huge corporations and the pockets of a few wealthy families who control the planet. Natural resources. Their tools include fraudulent financial reports, rigged elections, payoffs, extortion, and murder. They play a game as old as the empire, but one that has taken on a new and terrifying dimensions during the time of globalization. I should know. I was an economic hitman, it says. John Perkins, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. I am haunted every day by what I did as an economic hitman. I'm haunted by the lies I told back then about the World Bank. I'm haunted by the ways in which the bank, its sister organizations, and I empowered U.S. corporations to spread their cancerous tentacles across the planet. I'm haunted by the payoffs to the leaders of poor countries, the blackmail, and the threats that if they resisted, if they refused to accept loans that would enslave their countries in debt, the CIA jackals would overthrow or assassinate them. I wake up sometimes to horrifying images of heads of state, friends of mine who died violent deaths because they refused to betray their people. Like Shakespeare's Lady Macbeth, I try to scrub the blood from my hands. John Perkins. If you have been awake long enough and studied the tactics of the globalists, you are aware that America is not a victim of pillaging and scheme. The U.S. dollar's monetary arrangement is enforced by the barrel of a gun via the over 800 military bases that the U.S. maintains. This is fundamental New World Order 101. Mark Taylor's prophecy bypassed these fundamentals, and recreated history with statements that were not true. Does God operate this way? Does the Spirit of God prophesy by making stuff up? Of course not. When this prophecy first came out, I noted these huge errors. But strangely, those who promoted it did not. And why not? How did the error slip under the radar? Was it an innocent oversight? Or was something else? I have some thoughts about this, and I will be talking about it further in future installments. But for now, I believe we are witnessing a disturbing trend of the arrival of the great delusion. And I personally believe this too. I believe that this is one big psyop, if you want to know the truth. The great delusion is here, folks, the false prophet. Based on the success of the false prophecy, there is more to come. And eventually, we will be watching the fulfillment of Revelations 13, 11, and 12. Then I saw another beast coming out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon. And he exercises all authority over the first beast, and in his presence, and causes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast. The verse above describes the false prophet, false church, will deceive the people and convince them to worship the beast, who is the false prophet. Some of you may already have a few interpretations about this, but allow me to place another option on the table. The false prophet will be a group of clerics who spread a twisted gospel like the one promoted by this guy, Todd Bentley. And this guy, Rick Joyner. I've already warned you about him. There he is, dressed up in his Knights of Malta. And just on a side note here, I've told you in past videos that Trump is a Mason. And the Masons, that's where they come from, is the Knights of Malta, okay? And the Illuminati, they were the Templars, Knights of Templar. You need to understand the history of these people. What is it? It is a false theology that goes by several names. Some of their terms include the New Apostolic Reformation, NAR, Kingdom Now, Seven Mountain Gospel, the Latter Rain, Joel's Army, as well as several other names. This movement is infiltrating the last days church like a storm of locusts. It would take a long time to go into detail about it, but it is very dangerous and is infected with satanic impartation. Kundalini evil spirits, that's that yoga, strange fire, and New Age preaching operating under the guise of signs and wonders. They believe that before Jesus can return, the earth must be conquered in 7 categories, or the mountains, or the 7 mountains, excuse me. I'm going to stop right here for just a second. Many of the comments on the first 5 videos were that Mark Taylor does not endorse physical violence or physical war. I've already stated that he does by his own words, and this article right here is another confirmation of that. Someone else confirming what I said, which I saw in his prophecies and his interviews. If you think he's not trying to get Christians to join together and go out and do battle to prepare the world for the coming Messiah, then you're sadly mistaken. That's exactly what that theology teaches. Okay, the 7 mountains. 1, arts and entertainment. 2, business. 3, education. 4, family. 5, government. 6, media. And 7, religions. So they're taking over all these places, which is how cults operate, if you know anything about cults. To do their conquering, representatives of this theology must be placed in power in each of these categories. When Mark Taylor speaks, that's a misprint there, I guess. It says, you were here, you will hear. The dominionist theology in his words. Representatives from this movement were evident in Trump's campaign. They often prayed with him and prophesied over him. And they still do. Watch who's praying with him in the White House. So what Nathan, what's the big deal? The big deal is take another look at Taylor's prophecy. In the second paragraph, it says, "For I will use this man to reap the harvest that the United States has sown for, and plunder from the enemy that which he has stolen, and return it sevenfold back to the United States." This prophecy justifies the United States conducting military ventures and crusades throughout the world, which has already started. He already hit Syria, and now he's trying to go into North Korea. I served in South Korea in the military back in the 70s. And I can tell you this, North Korea is really no threat to the United States. Oh, they talk big and they carry on and they threaten. That's just that dictator's way of extorting money from other countries so they can go on. The United States would wipe him out with one Ohio-class sub in about 15 minutes. Okay, let me start right here. This means war, folks, but worse, it justifies war and pillaging under the convenient umbrella of the Holy Spirit. The Seven Mountain theology is a militant theology of war, and Donald Trump was promoted by proponents of this movement. By having the prophetical endorsement, military ventures will be assured to take place under the Trump presidency, and worse, they would be sanctioned by Christians because of false prophecies like the one above. You have to be very careful, folks. I don't care how you spin it, the Lord wants no part of that. He wants a Christian not to be involved in that, period. If you don't believe that, then you don't know your Bible and you don't know the Lord. In conclusion, based on the evidence that I presented, this prophecy is proven to be false. I do not believe that this was the word from the Lord. A true word from the Lord would not be inconsistent with facts. It also would not bypass sin and claim that a person had nobility in their own words when they are outright liars. But Nathan, Trump won the election. Isn't that proof that it's true? No. There was a 50% chance with that portion. The study proved that there is no way it can be true. I've heard a lot of people saying because Trump became president, that prophecy is true. Think about this, folks. They got out there and they hammered this and got people to vote and made that prophecy come true. Okay? You need to understand that. If I tell you my house is going to burn down tonight, and you're sitting there watching and it just doesn't happen, and then I throw a bomb on it and catch it on fire, does that mean the prophecy came true or that I made it come true? Think about that. That's foolishness. But there were portions of this prophecy that made Trump sound really special. What about that? Yes, there were portions that is true, but I could also explain those as well. The water off the Trump's back does not mean that God coated Trump with anti-criticism feathers. Instead, it means that Trump devours media attention and craves it. This was taught to him by his mentor, Roy Cohn, who showed him that all news is good news, even if it was a negative report. It is all right here and here, and then there's two links there I will not go to. But I'll leave the description in the box, as I said. I don't know if that's, I guess it's not a video. But that's Ed Koch and then Roy Cohn. You people need to understand Trump is... He's been a part of this forever. So Nathan, where did the prophecy come from? Is it from God? I believe that God allowed it, obviously, but I believe that this prophecy was given by spirit of deception. I do not believe Mark Taylor heard it from God when he wrote these words. If this offends you, sorry. And I have to agree with him 100% right here. I think Mark Taylor's hearing from an angel of light. And then the establishment wants to push him forward because it's a message they want out there. I don't understand why this was not vetted better. There are inconsistencies in this word, and the bottom line about this whole matter is a collateral damage to God's people. God's people were led into confusion by this word, and I find no excuse for that, and I agree. It says, I will be disclosing a lot more information about this in the future, in the coming year, 2017. Vigilance will be required by God's remnant. And if you're wondering what my motive is, why I keep pushing this, that's the reason why. God's true Christians, they need to understand and be aware of this and not be sucked in. That's my motive. And in his service, Nathan Leal, Watchman's Cry. I don't personally know Nathan Leal, but I agree wholeheartedly with his assessment here. I find no fault in this whatsoever. Like I said, I'll leave a link to this so you can go and look at it, and you can look at all the little side notes he's got and all that. And I'll end this video right here. Thanks for listening.